Hey, I'm Mark Goodman.
And I'm Alan Light.
On today's podcast, in celebration of International Guitar Month, Pete Townsend of The Who will join us.
Pete went deep with us into his relationship with the guitar and with music in general, the new Broadway version of Tommy. He clarified the status and the future of The Who, and much, much more.
Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, the only music podcast that matters. Get it on Pandora, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Well, it's not so much confident. What it was is that I got confident that I could do any era that I want, and that's why I think that my flow is like that, because a lot of the crazy fast flows that I do that a lot of people are impressed with is stuff that I was doing when I was a teenager. A lot of those, like a lot of those kind of flows were from my youth, and then in the 90s, when, the whole, Nas, Raekwon, like it was almost, Rakim did the serious, like straightforward, like I'm gonna rhyme and just be so lyrical and I'm the god. And then that then it turned into, and then there was the whole, Chuck and X-Clan. But then 91 started coming on, Heavy D started getting a little bit more fun with his flows, even though he was 80s, Mr. Big Stuff. But I'm talking about, like, he'll be like stripper, hipper, like he was doing that wild stuff. And then there'd be like, and Grand Poobah came with that step to the rear, Grand Poobah on, a little bit more fun. And then you had Chip Fu and Chub Rock and all these kind of different like flow type of artists that had fun with it. So in the mid 90s, with all the, Big Papa and all, it kind of, that fun kind of weird type of thing was kind of like, no, now we're about Mobb Deep, real, keep it real. So that silly, Chip Fu, Positive K stuff ain't what we're doing in 97 and 96. And you know what I mean? So it started getting a little bit more serious, So then I kind of, and then I lost all my money with the label and this and that. So then I kind of stepped back a little and simplified my flow, which I shouldn't have done. But I did it. I said, okay, cool. I could rhyme, more simple like that. But then I slowly started bringing the fast flows and the wild flows back into my stuff for little pieces. And every time I did it, they'd be like, oh, my God, R.A. killed that. Did you hear that part? I'm like, I used to do that when I'm 15. So then slowly I started grabbing a lot of those flows and doing modernized on steroids versions of them too. But like, so now what it is now I have, I started rhyming as a little kid in the 80s, little boy in the 80s. So now I got 80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s. This is a bunch of different decades of, how many flows I've done in those decades? So now when I realize, when I put on a beat, you don't have to be serious, Mobb Deep. You don't have to be this. You could, okay, this one I'm feeling 1980s. This one I'm feeling, okay, Tech 9 does that stuff. I'm going to do a R.A. thing on some strange music type of beat and watch what R.A. could do to that. Like I could do any flow that I want, and I'm not held down to one style to try to, you know what I mean? So now I just rhyme any way I want, whenever I want, whatever kind of flow, whatever. And, because certain flows aren't accepted on the radio. We don't give a hell about the radio. So we care about making great records. So now, okay, this one I'm going to mellow out and have a simple flow. But that's, I don't care who plays it, but that's what feels to this beat. This one I'm going to go retarded, out of control flow. You know what I mean? And that's what you get on it. I do whatever I want now. So that might be a little bit more of the confidence that you hear,
Hey, I'm Mark Goodman.
And I'm Alan Light.
On today's podcast, in celebration of International Guitar Month, Pete Townsend of The Who will join us.
Pete went deep with us into his relationship with the guitar and with music in general, the new Broadway version of Tommy. He clarified the status and the future of The Who, and much, much more.
Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, the only music podcast that matters. Get it on Pandora, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.